Aquafaba pumpkin cake for you guys today. Aquafaba, if you don't know, I did a special cake recipe on it before, and it's basically whipped up bean liquids that function very much like whipped egg whites, so it's really going to lighten a cake. And that's really good for pumpkin cakes because it is such a dense cake because of the pureed pumpkins. I put a little bit of dates in here, so it's more of a heavier cake. With the Aquafaba, it's really going to lighten it up, and it's going to be a really delicious cake. So I hope that you guys will make it for your Thanksgiving and holiday festivities. So without further ado, let's head over to the kitchen and then let's get started. Okay guys, so I'm starting off this recipe with a cup of dates pureed with about ½ a cup of coconut milk. Now, you guys don't have to do this. If you want the cake to be a little bit lighter, don't use dates, just substitute for a cup of brown sugar instead, and then you don't really have to puree anything. I just chose to use dates instead. So in here go 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and then followed by 3 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. The recipe will be down below afterwards. And then this is pumpkin spice. I have had this for years and it keeps on giving and giving. So about 1½ teaspoons of pumpkin spice. Depends on how much you like. I like a lot of pumpkin spice, but it can be a little bit overpowering. So 1½ teaspoons, and then just mix that around just to make sure that all of the baking powder and the baking soda and everything is nice and distributed into the dry mixture. So that's a dry mixture. Here comes the rest. So ½ a cup of coconut oil, since I am making this kind of like a pumpkin coconut cake, and then a can of pumpkin puree. So pumpkin puree, a can of it is going to be just about 2 cups, all right? And then in go my dates and coconut milk mixture. So the coconut milk is also going to provide a nice moisture to it, as well as a little bit more fat, and then obviously the dates will provide a little bit of sweetness. So in that goes also as a dry mix. Again, if you are going to use, this is going to be about 2 teaspoons of, this is liquid stevia, so it's going to add just a little bit more sweetness to the dates, which I find necessary. Now, if you want to, again, use some of the brown sugar, just put that in the dry mixture step, okay? In go about a teaspoon of vanilla. I think I might have put a little bit too much, but just blend that all together. It'll seem a little bit dry at first, but then if you continue blending, it actually turns out to be, it's a thicker batter, but it's actually nice and creamy and smooth. So I'm actually going to add a 1/4 cup of desiccated coconut. So this is unsweetened, and I just like it for the texture that it adds to the cake, and then also just that you can bite on little bits of coconut to kind of enforce that coconut flavor. So just whip that all together. This is the Aquafaba that I'm talking about. So just like last time for my Aquafaba cake, which I will link down below, I reduced about a cup of this bean liquid down to about 2/3 of a cup, let that cool down, and then just whipped it without anything, without any sugar. So that's why it's a little bit on the soft peak side, but that's totally fine. It'll be much easier to kind of whip into the batter that way. So just like you would deal with egg whites, just fold a little bit of that into the batter first, just to lighten everything up so that you don't kind of risk deflating the rest, and then put the rest in, and then gently fold it until you see that there aren't any streaks. Now this is really hard to, because you can overdo it, because you can pop all of the bubbles, so kind of just so that you don't really see any more streaks anymore, and then you have to kind of stop yourself right there, okay? So now, because this is festive and for Thanksgiving, I'm going to take out the good bundt pan, and you just have to make sure to butter or oil that really well. So I'm taking the coconut oil and I'm making sure to get that middle part, because that is really usually the part that screws people up. The batter ends up sticking to the middle part. So make sure to very liberally oil it, and then just kind of spread that batter around the bundt pan so that everything is even and everything, you know, bakes up the same. So this goes into a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes, 30 to 35 minutes. You want to give it a check after it is done. So when it is done, it does have a spring. You will see that it's golden brown, and when you do use a toothpick though, because this is a batter that is very moist and has, you know, dates and pumpkin puree in it, sometimes it will stick to the stick anyways, even though it's done. So after you pierce it, kind of check out the batter, give it a smell. If it smells raw, then it still needs a couple more minutes, and then if it doesn't, then it's really all set. So you have to test these recipes out in a different way than just your normal toothpick way. So let that rest for about 30 minutes. Make sure that everything is nice and cool. cool. Otherwise, this bundt pan could totally break on you. So I'm just making sure that everything is nice and loose. I'm just taking an offset spatula, I'm going around the middle part, and then I'm going around the outside parts just to kind of squish some of that cake in to make sure that it separates from the bundt pan itself. Okay, so just flipping this guy over, and then you can kind of already tell when the cake starts moving just a little bit, you know that it's good. If it's not, turn it over again, and then just continue loosening it little by little. So that's how it looks. Not too spectacular yet, but you can continue decorating it, and then just to make it a little bit more festive. So usually people will use powdered sugar. I added a little bit more cinnamon spice to that because I just think that powdered sugar is just sweet and it's kind of boring, and I would like a little bit more flavor to it. So just sprinkle and dust the sugar over. It's super festive and super nice, and this is actually a super addictive process. Like, I wasn't gonna put that much sugar on it, but then I was like, ooh, this is really pretty. So I continued kind of tinkering away on this. But anyways, it makes for a really nice picture, and you can really eat it like that. If you want to, serve it up with some cream. I added some walnuts, some cranberries, some star anise. This is really all just to make it really pretty. I mean, personally, if you have like ice cream or something in the middle, I think that you can just fill that in and it'll be super gorgeous. So now I know that you guys want to check out the middle, so I'm going to do that slice shot for you guys right now. Trust me, it is super moist, but actually, I mean, it is dense because it does have the dates and it does have the pumpkin in it, but not really too dense because we did incorporate some air in that with a little bit of aquafaba. So it's actually a very nice and balanced and hearty cake. Anyways, guys, as usual, if you like this recipe and you want to see more of it, remember to give that thumbs up, and hope you guys have a really nice holiday, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye!